All right. I am really excited today because I'm joined by my two new friends, Aaron and Tyler from Journey to Truth. So I'm excited to have you guys on today because I would like for you to tell us a little bit about your story for those people that are on my channel that may not know who you are. You guys are doing incredible work. You have the Journey to Truth. I used to call it Journey to the Truth. I finally got it right. Journey to Truth podcast. And you have such a large spectrum of the variety of guests and the content that they share. So I am an avid watcher myself, and I think that you guys bring on some of the most incredible people that I've learned from. So I wanted an opportunity to have you guys come on and talk about yourselves, how you got started, give us a little bit of a background on your individual stories, how you came together, and then we'll dive into some interesting topics that you will be able to finally give your opinion on, as opposed to being on the other end listening to everyone else talk. And then I get to sit back for once and listen to you guys talk. So this is a nice switcheroo uh, of the
Totally.
roles today. So welcome to both of you.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Honored to be here. Thank you.
right.
So who wants to go first?
Uh, I'll
You
go.
want to go first?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Are you supposed to ask me a question?
No, you give me a background. Like, tell us
I'm
a little bit
joking.
about your background
I'm
first.
messing with you. Um, yeah, so I was just interviewed earlier today, and I was asked the same question, and I had to condense it for a local radio station, and I realized how insane it sounds when I say it out loud, but then I realized like the reality of how crazy this world actually is, because like it's nothing is black and white. Everything we see on the surface is like this illusion reality that was created for us. And it started for me when my mother passed away. I was 24 years old, and overnight, I started having experiences. I started being attacked at night. What I didn't know what it was at the time. I had no context, no reference of anything. I didn't really believe in anything. The experiences forced me on a path of awakening and a spiritual journey, and I had to develop tools to like defend myself and protect myself against something that I didn't even believe in the first place. But when it happens to you, it forces you out of the matrix. It forces you into this like broader spectrum of what's possible and what's happening. And it's a long story. It's a really long story. I'm actually writing a book, but in a nutshell, like my mother's death, like kickstarted that for me, and it was explained to me that like whenever a loved one or something traumatic, when you lose a loved one or something traumatic happens to you in your life, it creates a fracture in your auric field, and it's almost like a light shining out to the fourth dimension, and any of these lower level entities that are just hovering around like waiting for an opportunity like that, that's when they come in, or they take advantage of the opportunity. And I think that's what happened. And there's a lot of theories onto why the attacks started, but the attacks ended up leading into something beautiful. Aaron and I met each other, and now we're doing this podcast, and it's I've never looked back, but it wasn't always negative, and it's not always negative, and there's some really beautiful experiences that came along the way also. But without taking too much time, that's kind of how I got into all of this.
Okay. Well, Aaron, you tell me your background, and then tell me how you guys kind of came together to create this podcast.
Yeah. So I grew up in a Christian family, and I was very like devout Christian until the age of 25. And I just started questioning things and had these like desire to suddenly, for the first time ever, basically to like find my own truth rather than just believe the things that were handed to me my whole life. And I kind of just went down every rabbit hole I could find, and I came across David Icke pretty early on, and David Wilcock, and even like Alex Jones he was a gateway, to deeper things, and Dolores Cannon and Project Camelot and Jordan Maxwell, and I kind of just like was going through this massive awakening over the course of that year of 2012, and just kind of was like taking in like a fire hose, of information, and grow. I feel like I was growing spiritually as well, and also deprogramming all of the programs I had been conditioned with my whole life. At the same time, I had like the dark night of the soul thing, And then, but I was very isolated. I didn't have, I had like my Christian family and friends, and then I had the band I was in was all like atheist guys, and then my atheist friends. And it was like one extreme or the other. And there was no, like, I couldn't talk to anybody about any of this stuff for like 5 years. So it was a very lonely like journey for the first 5 years. And then I finally just kind of couldn't take it anymore. I was just like, I have to meet up with other people, other like-minded people, and people on this same level, And I went to a conference in Mount Shasta in 2017 called Eclipse of Disclosure, and it changed my life. And I met some beautiful souls there and got connected to the community for the first time. And then the sequel to that conference was in Colorado the next year, and that's when I met Tyler, was at that conference, and realized we both lived in St. Louis. And that's kind of how the podcast started. We were like, oh, sweet, let's hang out. And, kind of had the idea to start a podcast just for fun, just for an outlet to get our thoughts out and have awesome people to talk to, and kind of like, we just wanted to do something. We both had this urge to like, we wanted to pour our efforts into something, and we just kind of started it without knowing what we were doing at all.
Zero expectations.
Yeah. Zero expectation. Yeah. Like we just jumped in head first without,
when I say zero,
too much about it.
When I say zero expectations, I mean that. Like I literally didn't think this was gonna
neither of us. I didn't either. Yeah.
And it was just like, why not? I thought, why not? No one's gonna watch anyway. That's what I thought. And I was wrong, luckily.
Well, sometimes you gotta go into it like that though. You just gotta go in with blind faith and just with no expectations, because then you don't build it up where you lose you lose confidence.
Right.
Yeah. Anything that happened was a bonus. Like it was like, oh wow. Because when you don't expect anything, you can't be let down.
Right. And just through the few conferences I'd been to, and then you had just been to the one at the time, we had made a few connections that were like, oh, these people would be awesome guests, to have on. And we just messaged everyone we could think of. And I think they all end up coming on the show, basically. Maybe like one didn't. And it just kind of kept snowballing slowly. Like the whole first year, it was like pretty slowly growing.
Right.
And then the snowball really started picking up after that, and it just kind of took on a life of its own. And here we are now doing conferences, and it's just the biggest blessing. What's that?
How many years has it been since you started the podcast?
About exactly 4 years.
4 years.
Exactly 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know, right?
When I started my channel, I didn't want to do it because I don't like public speaking and I don't like attention on myself, and like it's just like and I finally did it, and the only way I was able to convince myself to do it was I was like, well, probably no one's gonna watch it, and if they do, it's just my clients, like the ones that I had in my area in Maryland that came to my wellness center and knew me. I was like, well, I'm just talking to them anyways, it's fine. And so that was a way that I didn't psych myself out. Otherwise I would have been too nervous. That I also don't like to put myself out there because I don't want people to judge me. Like, people are mean. So it's not easy to put yourself out there. And you guys wanted to create a community, and you did that. Like, you have created a community so that people can come together now. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Right.
Not everyone has the guts to do that.
And the most amazing thing is the reach that I never expected. When we started getting feedback from Asia, Russia, Europe, Australia, Africa, I mean, everywhere, Germany. And like I remember one time we got a donation for 10,000 yen, and I got so excited because I thought it was $10,000.
$100 maybe.
And then I was like, wow,
that's so awesome.
I was like, wow, this person's in Japan. Like, this is reaching the world. We call it a community, but it's global,
Global community.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned it's funny too, because a lot of times you put people on a pedestal, not intentionally, actually. Just, you see people out in public, you see them a bunch of times, their face becomes familiar, but then you're kind of like nervous when you're around them. But when you realize that these people are just human like everyone else, it makes us all feel more equal. So, and I'm giving the example of like David Icke. You mentioned him. He was actually a big part of my spiritual awakening, like with exposure to the reality of the matrix. Dolores Cannon was that for me for the spiritual, but he was kind of the, okay, this is what's really going on here, right? They both serve their purpose, is what I'm saying. So I thought to myself, oh, I could never speak to them and I'd be too nervous. But then going throughout my journey and meeting people like you guys and going to conferences, you realize like these people are just people like me and you. And they're just the same. They just have experiences that they can share. And I think that's great because all the guests that you bring on are so humble. Most of them, I mean, I've not seen all of your shows, but majority of the time, they're very humble people that are just sharing their what they know, and that comes across very authentic.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Very much so.
And you make a great point too, because getting into this, we did look up to a lot of these people. You know, they were paving the way for people like us, and
we had the celebrity thing. Yeah.
I mean,
like there was people we had on, we're like, oh my God, we're having this person. Yeah.
Yeah. But then that melts away when you start talking to them and you're like, wow.
You realize they're just real people like us, like everyone else. And
until you come across the ones that really are full of themselves.
But there's ego. Yeah. I mean, in any community, you're going to have that, like there's the ego thing.
Right.
And, I just hope we never, I'm like, I don't ever want to get to a place where I think I'm better than the people, or I have like because I know like we're all the same. We're not all the same, but we're all, we're all beings having this human experience and the same in value. And we all have a unique gift and unique things to offer each other. And no one's there's no pedestals, no one's on different levels where it's like, oh, we should all like put this person above, that's not a thing. That's all ego. So
right, that's why we don't have VIP
right
tickets at our conference. Like every ticket is a VIP ticket, meaning like anything the conference has to offer, you get it along with everyone else who purchased a ticket, and there's no tiers. Get rid of that class system, because honestly, that's the problem with society.
That is exactly the problem, because then we put people on pedestals, then their ego grows. Ego can be a great thing. We need the ego. It's what separates us from each other so that we're not just like, I am Sherri, I am Aaron, I am Tyler, but we keep it in check. We don't allow it to take over us. And sometimes when the ego gets too large, we have that complex of I'm better than other people. And then when there are those willing to follow because they don't feel empowered and they don't have that self-confidence, then we have the followers, and it leads to where we are exactly right now. And so I love the humbleness of the two of you, because I think it's really important right now that we have positive leaders in the community that are very humble and have the ego out of it and are trying to move people, to guide people away from the elite, the celebrity status, because where we're going, that isn't going to exist. So people either need to get on board with it, or they're going to be really lost because they're going to feel like they always need to follow somebody, and that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think your guests are a good example of that.
And it really gives us an opportunity right now also, because as people get into this information and they start following people, there's the disinfo agents, infiltrators, people who are compromised, whatever. What happens is the people who follow them, they get let down. They feel like they've been duped, and sometimes it like sucks the wind out of their sails, right? And they kind of lose hope. So it gives us an opportunity. We observe all of that happening. We get to be a voice of reason now. Like, we just want to be a platform where people can safely come and not feel like they have to choose a side, and not feel like they're being misled in any direction, in any way, shape, or form. Just take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And
right. And if you don't give your power away to people outside of you, then you don't get that, because that's an indicator you've given your power away to someone or something outside of you. When you get that, like, oh, I lost hope, oh, I was misled, or I was, you take in all information, you take in everything, and you grow from it. You take what's useful, but you don't rely on those people or that information to be like your worth and your hope and everything else. But that kind of in any community that happens, but especially in like the disclosure community, it happens a lot, unfortunately. And I see these like cult groups form where they have like, this person's like the cult leader that like all these people worship like this person, and then all these people like worship this person, and then those groups fight each other and who's right and wrong, and then it's like all this nonsense. But
Yeah.
it's about coming back to
That's
yourself and not giving your power away to in doing that, and then we can all be, you know, self empowered people that are sovereign and are not giving their power away. And then that's what's going to create the beautiful reality that we want, not following a person and knowing the right information or believing the right things. That's all the old system that's going away.
Yeah, exactly what you said. The old system, you know, all they're doing is feeding into the matrix. They're just keeping it going. They're keeping it alive. You know, it's all about division. You know, everything is designed in our society to divide us in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through religion, through gender, through political structure, through sports, even the most simple things that you wouldn't think of. Take sports teams. You know, people really hate each other and fight because of their sports teams, because they're avid fans, and that's a cult too. We got to get out of that cult mentality, because
Politics.
all of it.
Politics.
Exactly.
Great example.
It's all divided. It's all designed so that we have one person on one side and one person on the other, and we're fighting with each other, and we hate. So that hate is always at the forefront of our thoughts, and that's how we continue to divide. And so one thing that we talked about right before we started recording this was how I was mentioning that I love the perspective that you guys have, just like myself. A lot of the information I have and that I know and I speak about at public events and on my videos is a collection of information that I've received from my sessions with children and adults. So it's like I get a glimpse in the window of their world and their reality. So I have a lot of information, you know, that's somewhat random, but now it's coming together. And I feel like you guys are in a really unique situation as well, because of the guests that you have. You get a front row seat to so many great stories and all of this disclosure that's coming out. So you have a lot of knowledge in there. And so I think that you have a great opportunity to share, you know, your perspective on some topics that maybe you don't get to do very often because you're interviewing other people and allowing them to speak. So I thought it would be fun for tonight if you guys get to speak up about some topics that we thought might be interesting tonight, and give your take on it, your opinion. Because at the end of the day, anything we say is our opinion. Nothing is factual, because everybody has their own truth, their own perspective. But it is still fun to kind of pick at people's brains. So I was thinking maybe we could get into spiritual warfare as an interesting topic right now, because that is exactly where we are at right now. We have spiritual bypassing. We also have spiritual warfare going on. So there's a lot of different ways we could take this. But from your guests and just your experience in the last couple of years, even, I'm sure it's shifted, you know, what is your opinions on spiritual warfare and where we are with that right now as far as the collective?
Well, you said spiritual warfare, spiritual bypassing. You forgot spiritual gaslighting. That happens. But no, it has changed. So 4 years ago, when we got into this, you know, my perception of what was going on is completely different than it is now. You know, I was naive in a lot of areas. I gave my power away, like we were talking. I was expecting certain dates to manifest that we were hearing about, certain timelines to play out that never played out. And over time, after 4 years of interviewing somebody every week for 4 years, it starts to paint a picture of what's actually happening here, because you realize, like, everyone comes on, they're sharing information from their heart as they believe it, as they know it, as it's true to them, but not everyone's right.
Right. Just because somebody says something doesn't, and like, even if they have a lot of what you consider to be true information, doesn't mean everything they say is true. But a lot of people tend to do this thing where they're like, oh, but this person said this, so that's the truth. This person said this, so that's definitely going to happen. And it's like, well, okay, that person said that. That's a data point. You can take that in, but don't give all your power away to that, you know?
Right, exactly. So, but getting back to the spiritual warfare aspect of like what's happening, we get to see like how this war is being played out on all levels. Like, it's a war for your mind, for your body, for your soul, on a physical level, your life. I mean, everything in this system is designed to work against you and make it as difficult as possible to survive and thrive. And it doesn't stop whenever you have an awakening. In fact, it becomes worse in the sense that you're now more aware of what the tactics that are used to enslave us and control us. And it becomes very apparent that this is literally a war right now. And that's why the division happens and everything, because people, once you achieve a certain level of enlightenment, you open yourself up to the dark and the light. And if you're not doing the proper protection, you might let in an entity or sell your soul in a sense, and maybe sign a contract, whatever it looks like. And now you're working for somebody you don't even realize. So we see contradicting information coming through. And I think this is like the result. The result is what we call spiritual warfare. I think people are being used intentionally to confuse us, so we don't know what's going on. They want us so confused, so lost, so we give up hope, go back to the matrix, work our 40-hour job, and never question anything. Because, by putting the misinformation out there and the disinformation, like I said earlier, it confuses the hell out of you. It causes somebody to give up hope because you don't know what to believe. Like, I don't know what's true anymore. And like Vivian Chauvet just said in her show, like there might be a little pebble of truth that you knew was true, but so much other stuff has clouded that you've lost sight of the pebble. And make sure you don't lose sight of that pebble, because that's what keeps us going. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Well said. Beautifully said. Yeah, you nailed it. And it is spiritual warfare going on, because we're all we're living on a planet that currently still has this like false matrix operating that is literally designed to siphon your soul energy and manipulate you into giving up and to doing that. And it's really easy, and especially when you're, quote unquote, asleep, you just you get these programs, you just kind of live your whole life feeding this matrix and feeding these parasitic entities, which have designed it and are basically using it to feed off of you. And in my opinion, that until you understand that, nothing about this planet for thousands of years makes sense. Until you understand that, then it makes perfect sense why everything is the way it is, designed the way it's designed.
Right.
And so the answer to that is really simple. It's just to take your power back, stop feeding into things outside of you other than like just loving the people around you. But it's about coming back to yourself and your own sovereignty, but then living in connection to people from that place. So it's not about like disconnecting yourself from, because we're designed to live in community and we're all connected, we're all one, but that doesn't mean we need to be this hive mind. That's like what the cabal, you look at everything they design, they want us all in this hive mind, believing the same things, giving your sovereignty away for the good of the collective kind of thing. That's like, communism is that whole philosophy, which is like so anti, life, basically. It's like this Borg like collective. So that's the spiritual warfare kind of, it's designed to manipulate you. It's to get you to give up your power and feed into things outside of you. And basically you're being used as a battery, kind of like the Matrix. That's why the Matrix literally is a documentary, at least metaphorically, because the system is designed to make you into a battery feeding into a system,
feeding the machine,
feeding a machine, right? Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. They don't want you to, your energy is not your own. You're just a battery feeding into this machine, and there's all this pain and suffering that's generating this energy that the system is designed for. So spiritual warfare is it's ultimately comes down to taking your power back, and then it's like realizing you are the source of life, because we're all sparks of the infinite creator.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so that means I'm being manipulated through this system to create what they want me to create and to feed into what they want me to feed into. And these dark entities are simply, if they can't get to you unless you basically allow them to.
Right.
And if you realize that, you can take your power back, and then you win, and then you can create
they can't
what you want to create. And
well, here's the thing too, and not to cut you off.
No,
that was
please.
well said, but you said something important. They can't get to you unless you allow them to. But the thing is we don't intentionally allow them to. That's why it's so important to focus on your frequency, your resonation, like your vibration, because even like mind control weapons and stuff like of that nature don't work on high vibration people. Like it's all extremely more effective if you're operating in lower vibration. So that's why, like, even though you're not intentionally allowing this stuff to happen, because you can't spot it. You know, this stuff is designed to trick us. We don't always see where the attacks are coming from and how it's manipulating us. But if you focus on keeping yourself like resonating at a high enough frequency, you have a better chance at not being as affected, because in some form or another, we're all like programmed. There's no way around it. And learning how to just like,
in the 3D, at least in this incarnation,
exactly
3D,
right, and learning how to be self-aware and navigate these times is crucial, because if you're not self-aware, what are you? And I've said this a lot lately, but you're a slave to the matrix, you're a slave to the machine if you're not self-aware, because understanding that there's deception in the first place is like, so I didn't realize this, but you know, I was having a conversation with somebody recently about how they're trying to put crickets into our food and all these bugs in our food. And their argument, they have no idea that the government even lies to us, you know? So they're defending this like, oh, there's crickets are a good source of protein, whatever. I don't have a problem with it. And, you know, but you can't explain to somebody who doesn't understand who doesn't understand what's going on.
Well, they don't realize that their opinions are programmed into them by that very system in the first place.
Right. So I realized like, if I explained to them why this was being done, they would just look at me with that fluoride stare, that blank stare, because if you don't understand that the media is lying to you and that the government is lying to you and everything is, you know, designed like we've already said, then you're not going to understand. You're never going to see their tactics. You're never going to see their strategy, and you can never, I guess, get out of that until you know your enemy, unfortunately. So it's really interesting to see people that are just completely closed off to that possibility, and it's concerning, but I think those people also maintain some sort of balance.
Yeah, and those are the same people that buy into the psyops right now. You know, and the psyops are here to distract us. So Enlil's here to save us. No, Enki's here to save us. No, Enlil's here to save us. No, Enki's here. Like no, and flat Earth versus round Earth, or this president and this one's president, this one, like seriously, all of this is designed so that we get mad at each other and we start screaming and we hate each other. They're all psyops. That's spiritual warfare too. And those are just a few examples. Don't buy into it. If you really were at a vibration or a frequency high enough, we would recognize that it's whatever we can control is what we should focus on. So if I can't control the giants under earth and where they are and what person said they're in this state and another person said they're in this state, or what Anunnaki is going to come save us, or if the earth is round or flat, if I can't control any of that, then why do I focus my attention on it? And that's what people should be noticing right now. If there's nothing you can do to change it, how is it productive for you to focus on it? And that's where we are right now. There's too many psyops.
Right. Or telling people the Earth Alliance has failed and we're all basically doomed unless we all wake up tomorrow. And
well,
what is that creating by someone saying that? You know, it's like, look at the intention behind and the energy behind what they're saying, and like, what is that designed to manipulate?
Well,
you know,
this is an interesting topic, psyops, because people look around and they find it impossible to believe that these people would be misleading them. But what's happening, you have to remember, this is war. And if you're the cabal, if you're the enemy, it's hard to explain. They're not stupid, okay? Like they're extremely smart and strategic in how they're trying to manipulate us and trick us into giving our power away. So they're going to take a group of influencers within a disclosure community, and they can feed them, connect them to a certain hive mind via implants or whatever it is. And there's literal black magic involved. And you can get a small collective, at least of 3 people, to all corroborate each other and push a narrative that, if you really sit back and look at, has nothing to do with disclosure, but it's more storytelling and building an audience. And it's like this whole savior complex thing. So you need to look out, like those are red flags to look for. And remember that it's not a psyop. An effective psyop can't happen with just one individual. Like it needs to be triangulated. The Illuminati understands the power of 3. So if somebody's putting out false information and two other sources are backing it, just because two other sources back it doesn't verify, especially if all three sources are friends. You have to understand how this works. And even though these people are out under the guise of fighting against the dark, doesn't mean they're not being used by the dark. Because if I was the devil and I wanted somebody out there to promote me, I would show up as somebody who is against me. So no one believed that they were working for me,
It's like controlling both sides,
right?
Which is what the dark side does. They create a false two side. Oh, look, and David Icke always would talk about this. Like, so they create this illusion, like, oh, look, these people are against this, so they must be the good guys, and it's like, no, but they control that side, and then they know the outcome of the game. The side that's going to win is the side that the stuff that they want to win, because they control the other side.
Right.
He's like, they don't leave anything up to chance. So but that's all within the system. It's all within the false matrix system and it, like you said, they've infiltrated even the awakened community and the disclosure community and the spiritual community.
And when you ask
happens in that too.
And when you ask yourself, but why would they do this? It's because we are at war and the planet is at stake. Seriously. Like, it sounds crazy to say that out loud, but it's the truth.
It is the truth. And I just did a couple interviews recently, and I talked about awake versus woke. And that's another good example. Awake is our ascension. It's our evolution. It's our willingness to go within and take our power back, stand up for what we believe is right, and co-create, because then we go and we work together from there. That's being awake. That's being mindful. That's being conscious. That's evolving. That's transmuting dark into light. And then we have the woke agenda, which has nothing to do with that. It's politicized, and it's spiritual warfare of, again, dividing, and it's extreme, and it's not taking your power back. It's continuing to give it away to this group, and it's a cult. And so again, it's our whole realm right now is designed with this spiritual warfare. So it's all about navigating out of it. So what do you guys have suggestions for people watching on how? I know we keep saying give your power, take your power back and all of that, but do you guys have any practical ways of navigating the mind control, getting out of it?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah.
I do, actually. For one, once you're aware of a trick, it loses power over you. So just awareness in the first place, right?
Over half the battle, right?
So just like learning about this stuff and that it's actually possible. There's plenty of information out there that points out how to identify red flags and stuff like that. So if you really want to go on that journey and learn how to not be manipulated, set that intention. I think those videos and those presentations, those podcasts will find their way to you. That's how it always works. Like, if I'm researching anything, all of a sudden this stuff starts showing up. It's like, it's really interesting how the world works. But we talk about spiritual warfare.
Discernment.
Right.
Discernment. Question everything.
But even but that's the whole thing. People are being manipulated away from their intuition. So
right.
But I want to
sit with things, feel into them. Don't just quickly jump on things.
Well, yeah. First of all, always ask yourself, what do I think? Just because this person said something doesn't mean anything. How do I feel? Learn how to sit with yourself.
Is this really true though? Let me, sit with it. Let me try to figure out if it's really true. Let me try to,
right. But
what's the energy behind this? That's a really good question. Always ask yourself, what's the energy? What do I feel the energy behind this person or this agenda or this thing is? And you can really, you can see the red flags when you really sit with things, I feel like.
And it's also important to, what was I trying to say earlier? Learn how, learn to know yourself, get to know yourself.
Yes.
So when a lie, your body reacts to a lie and your body reacts to the truth. And that is the baseline that you need to set for yourself. You need to know how your body responds when something is true and when something's not. And it's like you become this antenna. So and it works so well that you won't even have to literally listen to a person. They won't even have to open their mouth for you to know what they're about, for what they're about to tell you, or or what energy is behind them, or where they're aligning themselves with. Sometimes I can just look at the thumbnail of a video and be like, nope, next. Like, I don't even need to watch this. I know. And I know maybe that sounds like egotistical or something, but when my gut gives me that alert, I don't ignore it anymore. Like, every once in a while, for like research purposes, I'll go against that feeling just to see what's being said on the other side here, so we can really paint a picture of what's happening. So learning to know yourself. And then, we talk about spiritual warfare. It doesn't just stop here. Like, there's a whole astral aspect that happens in our dream space, in the astral realm. And like, there's a lot of attacks and manipulation that happens there, and siphoning of energy that happens there that carries over into our daily life. So that's an entirely different ballgame, but that it's all hand in hand. It all goes together. And like lucid dreaming, if you're just looking for advice, like lucid dreaming has helped me tremendously. Like, being able to be aware during your dream state enough to see like an intruder or see like an incoming attack, to wake yourself up before it happens, before the attack even occurs. That's huge. That saved my life, actually. Maybe it didn't save my life. Not like I was going to die, but learning how to lucid dream, learning how to spot the infiltration in my own, because dream walkers, I found out, is a real thing. People have a psionic ability. They can literally walk around the astral realm and pop into people's dreams. Well, I realized that's how these attacks occur. And that's
entities too.
Exactly.
Not just people.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Entities. Like, it is an entity in the astral realm.
Yeah.
But I realized, yes. And I realized, like, so I just imagine it as like each of our own dream spaces is like a bubble, and there's like a neighborhood of bubbles, and these entities go through and they can just pop into whatever bubble they want. So, and that's exactly how it occurs. When I see somebody infiltrate my dream space, they just like pop in. It's like a glitch like a little glitch, and all of a sudden this thing is out of place. Well, at first it's not out of place until you learn how to recognize it. But as soon as you see that glitch, as soon as something's off, I now have the ability to wake myself up, because I'm aware even in my dream state. And like, this is just another tactic to use if we're going to talk spiritual warfare.
Yeah, I love that. And I have the same thing. I get attacked in my dreams, and I see the attack coming, and I'll wake up and I'm like, whoo, that was a close one. And I'm like, man, gotta get up and go to the bathroom and like get some water after that, like
Yes.
It happens all the time. And it happens to our children all the time. That's how they target the kids.
And I will say that even though it's happening in the astral realm, there's something happening physically too, because I've woken myself up just before this person or this will get to me, this entity will get to me. And I've seen the shadow person in my room, or the entity, or something in my room. Like, they're not just coming astrally, like there's a shadow person, a shadow version of themselves that is in the physical 3D world that we can still see somehow. And if I wake myself up just in time, I see them, and it scares the shit out of them, and they take off.
Yeah.
They're not expecting you to wake up. So there's like, it's really tricky what's going on here, but it's like, this is actual war right now.
Yeah. And one thing that we have the ability to do that we're not taught, and it's so simple, and anyone can do it. And it can work through the television, through podcasts, through listening to Audible podcasts, and someone you meet out in the street. If you're not sure about the intentions of somebody, and you're not listening to your gut, you're not quite sure if you should listen or not, you're confused, whatever, you have the right to ask that being to show you their true form. And they have to show it to you. And it can come as a vision. You close your eyes, you could see, you can sense, it could be a color or a knowing, feeling, something. And if it's not good, or they come to you as this demonic entity, but they're appearing to be very beautiful or very put together, very handsome, charismatic, whatever, you will see. And it works every single time. You will just know. And I didn't do that recently because I went against my gut. And afterwards, I asked these people in my mind's eye. Now, I'm not telling them on the street or calling them up, show me your true form.
Right.
But I did that. And I was like, oh my God, because I'm human at the end of the day, and I make mistakes, and I'm still learning. I'm not perfect. So I get duped once in a while, just like everyone else. And when I did that, though, I was really surprised. I wasn't surprised at what I saw because I knew it, but I was surprised that I got fooled by it. So if I had just exercised that for myself from the beginning, I wouldn't have gotten myself into that situation. So we all have the ability to do that. You have to show me your true form, and they will reveal it.
Right. And you know,
Right.
it's really interesting too, is this happens a lot. Somebody will reach out to me and like, you know, I'm not so sure about this person. What do you think about this person? Or why do you think this person did this? Whatever. I'm like, you know, you already know why. If you have to ask me,
Right.
then that's your answer. Like,
Yep,
do I
exactly.
trust, hey, Tyler, should I trust this person? Like, if you have to ask me, that's your answer.
Exactly.
It's like they already know, but
So
they still want like
Right.
more confirmation.
Right. But I get it, because we've all been there before, because we can be deceived. Spiritual people are easy to trick because we're always looking for that
Mhm.
that external communication or something. So
Right.
it happens to all of us. I'm not saying I'm above it, and it's still, we all fall for it. But if you find yourself having to ask somebody else about what they think about somebody, that's your answer. Like, go with your gut. The reason why are you asking me this question? Ask yourself why you're asking me this question, because you don't trust that person. There's your answer.
You're so right. Tyler's dropping truth bombs. That's so right. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, that is exactly. You already know before you ask the question. So, well, let's move on a little bit. I want to talk about how you guys started the first conference. Maybe tell us a little bit about your conference I think it was last May, right? The Secret Space conference that you did. And then we'll get into the one that's coming up, because I'm really excited about it. Not just because I'm in it, but I'm excited also to go. So tell me about the first conference and how you guys got that idea, and a little bit about that.
I mean, it was Tyler's idea.
Well,
and kind of your baby.
We kind of talked, we tossed around the idea together.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What happened was we found ourselves involved in some other conferences, like participating, setting up a booth on the planning end of it, emceeing it, speaking, whatever. So we were involved, and I noticed, I was like, wow, this is a shit show behind the scenes.
we just really saw what not to do.
Yeah.
And what to do. We really saw like what we really didn't like, but what we really did like from going to a lot of different conferences.
Right.
And then we realized from the podcast, we're like, wait, we saw people with way less of a I guess following or whatever,
right,
to be able to do a conference, still pull off a conference. And we're like, wait, we could totally do our own super easily if they can do it.
Right.
You know?
Well, and
also,
right, exactly. And actually seeing, like, being a part of them, and I saw how easy that it could be.
Yeah.
And I watched, like, a lot of the conferences that we were involved in were fantastic. They were great. I'm not dissing any of them, but I saw how it was overcomplicated in a lot of areas. I'm like, this doesn't have to be that hard. All people want to do is just get together and hang out. Bottom line, like, you don't have to shoot fireworks off or anything.
They'd like overdo it. They'd make it way more complicated than it needs to be.
So I was like, all I have to do is throw a party, create a space, and get these people together, have some speakers. Secret Space program was like easily our most viewed episodes.
Right.
Everyone loved that information, and including myself. So I was like, let's just do it. And let's have a Secret Space conference and like really unpack this thing. And it turned into something that I couldn't even have planned. I planned the event, but the experience that created itself, and it was amazing.
And from having a show where we have all these different guests, it made it really easy for us to reach out to the guests we'd already had on the show to be like, hey, do you want to speak at our conference? And they're like, yeah, of course.
Right.
Rather than like, if we didn't have a show, trying to reach out to people that we had just, maybe met once, being like, hey, we're doing a conference. It's like, when you have somebody on the show, you already have that kind of, connection. You've already had them on the show, and it's just kind of like,
so they're more likely to like put their trust in you. Like, okay, yeah, these guys are whatever.
And the fact that it was a secret, so that was your idea, is what the Secret Space program theme of the conference was what I meant, I think, by your idea.
Right.
But we both wanted to do a conference. We just, I mean, like you said, it doesn't have to be complicated. We just messaged everyone. We wanted to, all the SSP people we'd had on the show that were like, oh, this would be amazing to have them all at one conference. And they all agreed, and one had to drop out, and then but then James Rink was able to replace them. So
let me tell you, it's not, it is. I was like, oh, it doesn't have to be this hard until you plan it yourself and start diving in.
But there's a lot.
I was like, okay, wait, it is pretty hard.
well, finding the right location was the first
Right.
big obstacle. We had to find the right place that felt right, that worked what we wanted, and we finally, you found that
Right.
that venue, or your dad.
But there was a point where I'm like, man, did I bite off more than I can chew? But then that's me getting in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized like there were some major lessons in that planning process for me to just like surrender and like kind of let the universe take the wheel. And it's like, it's going to be okay. Just do this. Like I kept thinking of the movie Wayne's World is like, book them and they will come.
Yeah.
And like, I swear that played in my head over and over for that first conference. And I was so stressed out in the planning. When it finally was over, I was like, never again, never. And we just started getting this overwhelming feedback from like everywhere, like that we had to do it again. And as soon as, and then all the stars started aligning again. I was like, you know what? Let's just pull the trigger and do it. Change the theme a little bit, but same place. It's going to be May 22nd through the 25th. Sherri is speaking there. We're looking forward to that. And it's going to be fun. And I'm more excited this year in the fact that I'm not as stressed and I know what to expect.
You're a lot more prepared because of last year. Like it's a lot easier now. Yeah. And oh, sorry. I was just going to, and like, so you learned all the things like from doing it last year. So now it's way easier. And the reason, and we got so many compliments last year. People, they're like, this is so amazing. And it felt like you guys have been doing this for years, even though it was our very first conference. But I feel like a big part of that is because we went to so many other conferences, we were able to like build it into like almost a perfect conference,
right,
where we left enough space in between the speakers. So you had plenty of time to hang out and talk. It's not just jam packed, like speaker the whole day. In a beautiful location, more out in nature, not just a hotel in a city. It's kind of like, I feel like we did everything.
We just knew what we liked and we created.
At least what we liked.
Yeah.
And it was obvious that's what everyone else liked as well, because they were like, this was like, the perfect kind of thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It ended up being a lot of fun. And the next one.
This time is, how does it differ from last time? Like, are there any of the same speakers, or are they all new?
Tony Rodriguez is the only returning speaker.
Yeah.
And I think we made a few people mad by not inviting some of them back. Sorry, guys. But we wanted to create something new because I noticed there's like this lineup of speakers that speaks at a lot of conferences. And I was like, and it was great. We could easily have those people. But, last year we gave 3 or 4 people, it was their first time ever speaking at a conference. We gave them a stage and opportunity, and it was great. Same goes for this year. There's people that are going to be speaking that haven't spoke before. They're not very well known, but that doesn't mean that what they're sharing isn't incredible information. And we kind of went on that, it's like Jock Doubleday. Nobody really knows who he is. He has some incredible theories that blow the, mainstream history about archaeology and geology out of the water.
But he should be speaking at all these conferences, but so we're giving him a chance to.
Right.
And if we would have like 100 people if we had everyone we wanted to, there's just no way we could have everyone we actually wanted to have. So it was a tough decision to narrow it down to just 11. It was really hard. Like there was people we really wanted, but this is what what it came down to.
Well, if you want to go through the lineup a little bit, let people know. And man, I'm so honored I made the cut. Whoosh.
Yeah, you made the cut. So.
Yeah. Tell us who's coming and a little bit about what they're going to talk about real quick.
Right. Yeah. When I heard you speak, first of all, I knew, I was like, she's got to speak at our conference. Like you were I love your energy. I love your message. I love what you're doing. So it was an easy choice. But so Brad Olson, a lot of people know who Brad is. He's written a few books. He speaks at like every conference.
He speaks at like every conference.
But we love
Brad. We love him.
We love his energy.
Yeah.
We kind of went by that too, like these people on and off camera, like who are they behind the scenes? So we love Brad, and we're happy to have him speak. Tony Rodriguez, same thing. Love the guy. He's incredible testimony. So we're excited to have him back. Abby Lynn.
She's kind of like that, where like doesn't speak at a lot of conferences.
Right. But she's amazing. She's a galactic experiencer. She's an energy healer. Does light language. I mean, she hosted Raising Starseeds with Heidi Pop for a while. And she has incredible information. And I think she doesn't get enough opportunity to share her story. She has some very incredible information to share. Then Geraldine Orozco, she's talks a lot about ETs and DNA and like the genetic hybrid programs. And she's got some, I just was going back through watching some of these old episodes, and I forget like how incredible some of these people's stories are, but she has some amazing information. Who else? Samuel Chong.
Yeah.
He's a translator for the book The Thea Uber Prophecy, which is, that's a long story, but it's an incredible book that was written. It was about a guy who was abducted off planet for 9 days physically, came back, wrote a book about it. And Samuel Chong found this book, was so moved by it. He hunted down the author, took a plane, flew to wherever it was. I think
Thailand.
Thailand, yeah. Didn't know where the guy lived. He had a picture of this bungalow that was on the book cover, and he was showing taxi drivers. He's like, "Do you know where this is? Do you know where this is?" Finally found the guy. Had to ask the author, like, "Did this really happen to you? I need to know, because this is incredible if it did." And he told him, yeah. And then he shared with him other stuff that wasn't in the book. And Samuel was so just taken by all of it. He translated the book into Chinese, and it's the #1 seller in China and a couple other countries over there, Thailand and stuff, Taiwan. I mean, and so he is just going to be sharing a bunch of information about that book and stuff that was shared with him that isn't in the book.
Because the author passed away years ago. So he's kind of like carrying the torch.
Exactly. So it's controversial stuff, but hey, we're all about controversial stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Sue Walker.
She's in contact with the Ponte under a group of ETs who are stationed under the Sandia Mountains. And that's an incredible story. And she also works with the Sasquatch as well. And then Barry Littleton, he's a experiencer, incredible story.
Yeah.
He's been working a lot with Jessica Jones, who is also speaking. She's a field researcher for paranormal activity, Bigfoot activity. Her and her team have even documented a portal. 2 of her team members went into it, disappeared, came back, lived to tell about it. She's a remote viewer. Then we have Sherri Divband. I don't know much about her now.
Some person, Sherri Divband. I don't know. Yeah.
Jacques Doubleday, like I said, he's coming with some new theories that, might even piss people off. But they're theories about how our planet was created. And he really gets into some next level stuff that I really resonate with. And he gets laughed at in, by academia.
Mainstream,
And obviously that tells me that
he's
on.
Really?
Tells me that he's on to something. But highly recommend checking out his interviews. And we're excited to have him. And then Brooks Agnew. He's more the scientist, more the grounded perspective. He kind of bridges the gap between all the woo and then like what's really happening, and like not what's really happening, but it's a bridge for skeptics,
He goes into science, really gets into the science of everything.
And he has science to back up a lot of the stuff that we just talk about. Like, and it's like he can validate the earth is hollow and that there's an inner earth and there's oceans under our oceans, and there's a sun inside of our planet, all based on science. And then on top of that, like time travel and all this stuff. And he's had his own experiences, but he brings a scientific background to it. So it's kind of like a big, well-rounded embodiment of like all encompassing truth topics.
Yeah.
I love it. I can't wait for it. So I'll put the link in the description below for people to purchase tickets. I think I heard you mention recently there's no room and board left at the hotel. Is that right?
Yeah. So the on-site, like if you want to stay at the lodge or the cabins, they're already booked, but there is camping on site.
There's camping on site.
It's a beautiful land. If the weather's great, like the camping is right there. People, like if you ever go to ECETI, that's basically the only way you can go to that conference. So
yeah, it's a lot cheaper to do that as well. So.
Camping's way cheaper.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of room to camp, but there's Airbnbs and hotels nearby. And we have a Telegram chat available on the website, journeytotruthcon.com. If you get on the Telegram chat, you can connect with people who are looking for roommates. So you might be, because some of the cabins actually like sleep 8, 9, 10 people. There's actually more than one bed and stuff. So if you find some people who are looking for roommates last year, that really worked out. So
that's great. Awesome. Well, and the cool thing you guys are doing right now, which I've been taking advantage of because I didn't make it to your conference last year, is you're replaying some of the speakers, or I don't know if you're going to do all of them, but you've done a bunch so far, so
Right.
people can watch to see what they missed. I love that you're doing that. I love that it's free, that no one has to pay for it. So kudos to you guys for making this attainable for everybody, because that's how it should be. And if we could, we'd and you guys didn't have to pay for all of the expenses of the location, we would just do it for free, like that's what we're
Right.
here to help everybody. But Tyler and Aaron are putting in a lot of work, and I'm sure it costs a lot of money to get this space, so we have to at least cover their costs. And so I appreciate you guys for putting this together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like we tried to make it as affordable as possible.
Right. We are not making the reason it's the price it is because that's how much it costs to do it. Like, it's that simple. We're not, because we get the comments once in a while like, oh, you guys are just trying to make money. Like,
let me tell you, last year I was sick to my stomach because I thought I was going to lose $9,000.
Thought we're going to owe thousands of dollars.
And we barely broke even. And people, you should see all the comments like, oh, this proves these guys are just in it for the money. I'm like, no one's really.
They don't. Well, a lot of people just don't understand how expensive it is to do a conference at a decent place. It's not cheap. So, but we could have done it in a crappy hotel or something that would have been a lot cheaper, but it would have been that.
Right.
And that's not what we wanted. We wanted
right vibe. And the vibe is important too.
It is.
And then
it's so important.
There's also the live stream ticket is available for $99. That's 4 days. It includes everything, and it includes a 6-month replay, so you can watch it if you don't catch it live. And everybody who purchases an in-person ticket gets the replay also. So that'll be emailed out to them afterwards. So even if you purchased the in-person ticket, you don't have to pay to watch the replay. And then if you want to wait a year, then we'll upload it on our channel,
Yeah,
in like a year.
I feel it merits bringing it up, because I know what it's like to be in your position. I mean, I did a very small workshop a couple of years ago, or I don't even know what year it is right now, but it was a while back, and it's a lot to put them on. And at the end, I basically got, I made enough to pay for my ticket and my hotel and food. So it's not about the money, but it truly does cover the costs. And so I know what it feels like to be you guys and try to put something on to cover the cost while everyone else is saying it should be free. So, you guys are doing the best you can. And it's a great conference, not even just because I'm a part of it. I would go even if I wasn't invited. And but I'm glad I was invited to be a guest speaker. I think it will be great. So if anybody can make it in person, it'll be a nice 4-day trip, and you will get to mingle with each other and hang out. I hear there's a great outside fireside thing going on, so we're all going to be able to mingle and have our own community, which is what everybody wants. That's what I'm looking forward to, seeing people face to face and getting a lifelong connection started. And so if you can't make it, then you can watch it through the live stream, which is a great option as well. So anything else that you want to say tonight, guys? Thank you so much for coming on my channel and talking about your viewpoints. I know we didn't get to a lot of topics, but I wanted to also talk about the conference coming up. But is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think you covered it all. Just again, for the people listening, journeytotruthcon.com. And I've tried to answer everyone's question, everything I could think of. Before you reach out and ask a question, make sure you read the website, because all the information's on there. And if you do have a question that's not on there, the email address is on there. Feel free to reach out.
And there's plenty of tickets.
Information below.
Yes,
plenty of tickets still available, but I wouldn't wait to the last second, but because I think it will sell out at some point this year. But there's plenty still available. Right?
Yeah, people have been asking. Just because the lodging is sold out doesn't mean the event is sold out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you guys also have vendors for those that are coming that are going to sell some of their books, and I'll have a booth as well with some of my books, and other people are bringing their stuff to sell. And so there's more. The vendor experience is going to be awesome this year.
Yeah.
Last year was awesome. This year, I think it's going to be better. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff happening. And it's not just vendors. There's going to be Reiki healers, tarot card readers, healers, just a a whole bunch of stuff. Artists, people are going to be doing like spiritual art. And I mean, there's just so many things I can't think of right now, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time.
Oh, awesome. Well, I can't wait. So thank you guys for coming on my channel. And this won't be the last time that you see the three of us together. I hope so. So
Right.
Yay.
until next time, thanks guys for coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.